Morning, everybody. Green checks start, and then we'll get started. There's actually a few students here doing some English stuff, so I don't expect many more than are here, which could be a good and a bad thing. If you have lots of questions, it could be good, but if you don't have any questions, then it could be quiet. I will thank everyone for submitting a bunch of work yesterday. I will definitely get that marked today or tomorrow and get you guys your updated marks. As well, I was just thinking about the in-class exam that we were going through yesterday. I said I'd open up the answer key to it yesterday, but I completely forgot. So I can open up that answer key after class today. And that way you guys can have answers to all of the questions. And you can just kind of, mark your own exam sort of thing. So yeah, last day we took a quick look at the exam, and I said if you had any questions, you could put them into chat, and then sent you guys away yesterday and asked you to come back with some questions today. So you can just throw them into chat, anything that came up when you were kind of reviewing or going through the exam. And as I said yesterday, it doesn't necessarily need to be a question off of this test. If you ran into a question somewhere else that you want to throw it into chat, or if I can find it easily, then I'd be happy to go through that as well as any concepts that you were uncertain of. If you still are struggling with factoring a trinomial, I'd be happy to do that. If you're struggling with something else, just let me know and I can help you through it. This last hour and a bit is for you guys, so whatever you have, I'd be happy to go through it and make sure you're comfortable with it moving into tomorrow. As well, if you have any questions related to the test tomorrow, you can put those in as well. It's important that you just bring a calculator and pencil with you, or a pen tomorrow. That's all you need, and everything else will be here. All right, Jenna's got page number 12, page 8. I think my pages are off by 1, so it'll be my page 9. That's a trig question, Jenna, so we don't have to do that. There'll be no trig on the exam. We're going to do trig real quick after the exam. You guys have done trig, generally speaking, you do it in grade 9, and then in grade 10 it's the same thing all over again, so it's pretty quick to get through it. So there's likely more trig at the very end of the multiple choice as well. So anything that says, that has a right angle triangle that isn't a Pythagorean theorem question, that's going to be trig. So anything that has cos, sine, or tangent, we don't have to worry about those for this exam. 3623. Okay, so another exponent law question, and this looks like, just at first glance, it's testing kind of two exponent laws. Generally they'll pick two and put it in there. So the two exponent laws that kind of jump out at me here are going to be the when you're multiplying with the same base, what do we do with the exponents? Well, we add them. So we'd go m plus n. And then it looks like once we've done that, we're going to have to convert from a fractional exponent to a radical exponent. So let's go. X to the 2 over 5, and then I'm going to add 3 over 2 to it. If I'm adding fractions, I'm going to have a common denominator. In this case, 5 and 2 is going to give me 10. So x to the 4 over 10 plus I'm going to multiply this one by 5, so 15 over 10. That gives me x to the 19 over 10. And then we talked a little bit about flowers the power, roots the root. So whatever's on top is the power, and whatever's on the bottom is our root. So we're going to have the 10th root, because it's on the bottom, of x to the power of 19. And that, to me, looks like that guy there. So again, two different exponent laws. Will Unit B8 be on our report card? It will. We're going to power through that next week. It'll be done real quick, and then it won't. There'll just be like the small test, like the 20-question test. Will be the only thing that goes on there to onto your report card. I was thinking of doing an assignment as well, so we might do that instead. I'm not quite sure what that'll look like yet, but yeah, we're going to try to get it done in the next week, and might just beat our report card deadline. If not, we will just hold off on your grades for a bit, and then we'll be able to put it on there. All right, hopefully that helps you out a little bit, Eric. Are there any further questions? Anything you're unsure of? Anything you want to see? Something you got wrong, got right? Maybe what I'll do is, hopefully you've had a chance to go through most of this exam by now, and I mentioned that I didn't put up the answer key. So what I'll do is maybe we'll put a timer on for 5 minutes again like we did yesterday. And in that 5 minutes, I will go in and unlock. Let's see if I can do it right now with my stylus instead of a mouse. I'll unlock the answer key, and we'll have you guys go in and look at the solutions to make sure you got your questions right. And if you got a question wrong, then you can most certainly ask about it. So if you had the course open in Moodle, you'll have to refresh the page, and that will allow you to see the exam answer key. And then if you, in 5 minutes, come back with any additional questions, or you can go through and just look at the answers, and if you're confused by something, ask. So we'll put up 5 minutes, and then we'll see you back here with some more questions. Thanks. All right, guys, welcome back. Hopefully you had an opportunity to look at the key and maybe something jumped out at you, or you got something that you were pretty sure you had right and it was wrong, or maybe you have a question about one of my solutions or something like that. So if anything came up, throw it into chat and I would be happy to go through it. Clarify anything, help you out. 60. I assume that's just question 60. The last page. That's a trig question as well, so we don't have to worry about 60. Yeah, anytime you're seeing like an angle and triangles, right angles, triangles, those are all going to be the trig questions. There's probably a bunch in the multiple choice. Yep. So looks like from '52 might be using like a ruler to measure that. I'm not sure. Yeah, 52 is going to be a ruler question. 53 is trig, so you don't have to worry about that guy. 54 is trig as well. Let's see what 55. Yeah, so those would be the trig questions you don't need to worry about. So far 12, 60, and the two I just mentioned, those are all the trig ones. We don't need to go through those because it's not going to be on the exam. All right, I'll give you one last chance to ask a question. Anything at all going into the exam tomorrow? Obviously bring a calculator, scientific calculator, and a pen or pencil, maybe an eraser if you want. You'll come in 9 o'clock and you'll have 3 hours, but it likely won't take that long. You're welcome to take the 3 if you want, but you know, 2 hours-ish is probably what it would take most students. And you can just write on the test. You have a formula book as well, be provided for you, and just go through the exam. You have 40 minutes to do the first 11 questions without a calculator, and then you'll have the remaining time to go through the rest of the exam. Jenna, no, there won't be breaks. If you're done part A, you can just go on to part B. Yeah, we're not going to hold anyone back. You just get it done when you're done, sort of thing. So if you finish in an hour, that's fine. There's no need to stick around for 3 hours, only if you need the time. So I just want to make sure everyone has enough time to do the exam. Now, traditionally, a provincial exam has 60 questions like this one in front of us here. And of course, I took all the trig off of ours, so it's about 5 questions. So that'll save you some time and likely take you probably an hour and a half to 2 hours to finish it. You can bring food with you, bring water, yeah, anything you want to eat or drink. That will be here tomorrow, McWilliams Center, 9 o'clock. Since no one has any questions, I'm not just going to blindly go through the questions on the exam. I'm pretty good at this stuff, so I'm not going to need much more practice. But what I will do, Eric, see you typing. If you have a question, I can do it for sure. What I will do is this. I will log off of the live feed, unless Eric's question needs to be done now. And what I'll do is I will jump into Blackboard in my office, and I'll be in Blackboard until about 11:30 today. So if you are just reviewing this morning and you run into a problem, you could just stay in Blackboard and say, hey, Mr. Borden, can you do question or so-and-so, and I will just be hanging out. The other group doing the apprenticeship and workplace math, they come in at 10:20, but there'll probably be only a few of them in there. So Yeah. Are there simplifying radicals on this sheet? I don't know, Eric. Yeah, there likely will be. See if we can find them. Do you want me to go through a few? Do you want me to, I can find some other ones to go through if you like, just to refresh your memory. The radical stuff. It's kind of graphing. Graphing. Radicals. Are there no radicals on this entire exam? There must be somewhere. Pyramids, 31 spheres. It's really strange. I'm really sorry about that. It doesn't look like there's any radical stuff on here. I can't find any, at least. Did you run into any, Jenna or Connor or Ian? I mean, there's this kind of 2 questions here at the beginning, page 5. Sometimes they put the simplifying radical stuff at the beginning because they want you to do without a calculator. This is in the first 12 questions, so there are radicals on the test for sure, but they don't always appear in the second part because they want you to do without a calculator. So if you have your calculator with you, you're able to just plug in square root of 360 onto your calculator and then figure out what the answer is. So maybe we'll look at this question here. Eric, likely you've done number 6 already, but yeah, there's some on page 5. 6 and 7 are both radicals. So simplifying the square root of 360, we need to figure out the largest perfect square that goes into 360. And if we need to do pull it out more than once, that's fine. We'll eventually get to the right answer. But I want to think of my perfect squares. So 2 squared is 4, 3 squared is 9, 16, 5 squared is 25, 36, 64, 49, 64. You get the idea. So if I just kind of keep going with my perfect squares, I figure out the biggest one that goes into 360, and kind of 36 jumps out at me as going into 360. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to break up this into 36 times 10. And if you recall, when we deal with radicals, we can write them as 2 separate radicals if they're under the same radicand. 36 times the square root of 10. I know that the square root of 36 is going to be 6, and the square root of 10. There are no perfect squares that go into 10 evenly, an integer number of times. So 4 doesn't go in an integer number of times, 9 doesn't, obviously 16 is too large to go into 10. So you end up with 6 root 10, which is the same thing as the square root of 360. So you should be able to go from the square root of 360 down to 6 root 10, and you should also be able to go from 6 root 10, and the question could say something like write as an entire radical. And it's kind of like the opposite process. So if I want to write 6 under a square root sign, 6 is the same thing as the square root of 36. If I kind of work backwards. Root 36 times root 10, I can write them under 1 radical. and end up with the square root of 360. So you should be able to go simplify and then write as an entire radical, kind of the opposite process. Going either way. Order the numbers from smallest to largest in value. Remember number 7 you're supposed to do without a calculator. So you just kind of have to estimate the roots essentially, given what you know about perfect squares and cubes. So something like root 18, I don't know what the square root of 18 is off the top of my head, but I do know that the square root of 16 is equal to 4, and I do know that the square root of 25 is equal to 5. So I would place the square root of 18 somewhere between 4 and 5. And it's a little bit closer to 4, so maybe I'd say something like 4.2 approximately. So we can call that 4.2. And then cube roots. Okay, what were my cube roots? 2 cubed is going to be 6. Nope, 2 cubed is going to be 8. 3 cubed is 27. And 4 cubed is 64. Is 4 cubed 64? 16 times 4? It is 64. All right, so this thing is equal to exactly 4. And then this last guy, square root of 121, I can write that as 2 separate radicals. And the square root of 121 is 11 over 3. How many times does 3 go into 11? 3 goes into 11 3 point something times. So 11 divided by 3, of course we can't use a calculator, but it is going to be 3 point something. So I have 4.2, I have 4, and I have 3 point something. And I'm supposed to go from smallest to largest. So it's going to be a 3, 3, 2, 1. That sort of thing. So kind of instead of thinking about the question 7 in terms of taking the square root or the cube root, thinking of it in terms of just repeated multiplication. Hopefully you can multiply those sorts of numbers. And one thing that I will recommend you do, if you aren't good with your perfect squares and cubes and things like that, when you first get your test, just think about what they are. Just write them down. 2 squared is 4, 3 squared is 9. Just write them on the top of your formula sheet or whatever you want to do, and that way when you get into the test and all of a sudden you see something like 64 and you're like, oh, what was that? 64, oh, that's the cube root. Cube root of 64 is 4. That makes sense, and just might help you, might let those numbers kind of jump off the page a little bit at you. Eric, did you want to see some more simplifying radicals, or is that good enough for now? Are you allowed to use a root table? If you construct the root table on your own, then yes, you're allowed to use a root table, but you cannot bring a root table in with you. I don't think that. No. No is the answer to your question, unless you write one yourself. Then you can use a root table. So if that's the first thing you do when you sit down is just write out all your roots, then that's a great idea. You can't bring one in though. You can't bring anything in with you other than a pencil and a calculator. Perfect. All right, last chance. Going once, going twice. Any additional questions? As I mentioned, if something comes up between now and 11:30, I'll just be in Blackboard in my office hanging out, answering math questions. The apprenticeship workplace students will be in if they have questions at 10:20. So if you had anything in the next hour, 2 hours, I'll be there. I would recommend strongly that you go through this exam. I would also recommend that you spend some time in the course. This final exam review booklet is really well done. I didn't make it. I wish I knew who did make it so I could thank them for making it. So again, it's all old provincial exam questions, and it's broken down by chapter. And the chapter 2 is actually the trig stuff. So everything in chapter 2 you don't have to worry about. Now, it's not the same chapters as the chapters we had in class, but everything's there, obviously. So everything aside from chapter 2 you should be able to go through. And the really great thing about this is it breaks it down into no calculator section, and then it gives you the calculator section, and then if there's any written questions, it has it. And then you go to the end of each chapter, and you can see that there are all the answers given there for the no calculator, calculator, and the numerical response. So I would strongly recommend you go through a bunch of questions there as well. And focus on the things you don't know how to do. I know it sounds crazy, but if you sit there and you're going through questions today, if you do the questions you know how to do just to make you feel better about yourself, you're not really getting any further ahead. You're just doing more of what you know how to do. So focus on the stuff you don't know how to do, don't remember. And that will be your best strategy, I find, for reviewing for this thing. All right, I will leave you guys from the live feed. I'm going to run into my office, and I'll just be there. Like I said, if you have questions, you can just throw them in the chat, and I'll be there till about 11:30. If something comes up this afternoon, I'll probably be here till 3:34 today. So just send me a message in Moodle, and I can always jump back into chat, into Blackboard, and go through any questions you had issues with. Or if you run into a problem, if you can just like take a screen capture of the question or just put it into an email, what I can do is I can show you a solution and email it back to you if you'd prefer that as well. That way you just have it. So that's kind of it. I look forward to seeing you guys tomorrow at 9 here at McWilliams, and we'll get this exam out of the way, and that'll be good. So if I don't see you guys till tomorrow, good luck studying, and we'll see you tomorrow. Thanks.